It's been said that Book 2 of medicine is now being written. That Book 1 was the pill for the ill, and Book 2 is going to be personalized care for the individual. And that's what we're going to be talking about with detoxification from environmental toxins, and why I've coined the phrase the 3D chess game played underwater. Hi, I'm Bob Miller, traditional naturopath and founder and president of Nutrigenetic Research Institute and the software Functional Genomic Analysis. Now, here's why I call it the 3D chess game played underwater, because here's what can be happening. There can be inherited genetics that may cause more free radical production inside the body. There can be inherited genetics that may cause less than optimal antioxidant production. There can be inherited genetics that may cause less than optimal antioxidant recycling. That's your NADPH. Inherited genetics causing less than optimal digestion and transport and handling of nutrients. We can have genetic variants that we don't make enough pantethine, or that we don't break down histamine foods, or we don't deal with gluten, or we don't transport the fats into the cells, or if we have trouble with the fatty acid desaturase, those fats don't get utilized properly. And then, of course, there's inherited genetics that may cause less than optimal phase 1. That's your cytochrome P450s. Phase 2, that's things like glucuronidation, sulfation, acetylation, etc. And then phase 3, where we take those toxins and attach them to the bile or the urine. And then, of course, the epigenetic factors, our processed foods, stress, electromagnetic fields, pesticides, plastics that are estrogenic, all the industrial pollutants, and the mycotoxins from mold that's becoming a very serious problem, growth hormones, xenoestrogens, heavy metals, and the list goes on and on. We're now being exposed to things that our ancestors just weren't exposed to 50 to 75 years ago. So detoxification will optimally occur when you identify and remedy any sources of excess free radicals. We'll be talking about some of those today: the Fenton reaction from iron, NAS uncoupling from peroxynitrite, excess glutamate or histamine, disruption of the heme cycle, or upregulation of mast cells, which is now becoming a serious problem, and EMF sensitivity. Then we need to identify and remedy any weakness in antioxidant production, such as NRF2, nuclear transaction factor, KEAP1 that controls NRF2, all the glutathione pathways, the production of superoxide dismutase, catalase. And then one of the areas that we're spending a lot of time on, recycling our antioxidants with NADPH, and utilization through glutathione S-transferase and glutathione peroxidase. And then identify and remedy any weakness in phase 3 that we talked about, urea cycle in the kidneys, and autophagy, which is becoming more and more important with some of the recent challenges we've had with our recent viral outbreaks. Now, also we have to do is identify and remedy weakness in the phase 2 detox pathways, sulfation, glucuronidation, acetylation, glutathione conjugation, methylation. As we spoke about earlier, the digestion of fats, proper bile production. Identify and remedy weakness in phase 1 detox and PON1 for herbicides. And identify and remedy weakness in methylation. Now, to do that, we've created what's called the pyramid. And you'll notice there's rows to this. And in this bottom row, it says Fenton reaction. And when there's genetic mutations in here, there's a very high potential that iron, rather than being used to make your hemoglobin, is going to make hydroxyl radicals. We need to make nitric oxide for so many processes. This uses BH4, NADPH, the NAS enzyme, oxygen, and L-arginine. If something goes wrong here, rather than making that very important nitric oxide, we can make superoxide. That'll combine with your nitric oxide to make peroxynitrite. Many genetic factors that make excess glutamate that makes us anxious and inflamed. Many things can go wrong with our gut. We can have epigenetic and genetic factors that will impact our gluten, how we break down our histamine, how we break down dairy. All of those factors can be impacting. And then if we have oxalates, that's another inflammatory factor. the heme pathway, where the body takes succinyl CoA and glycine to make heme. Many things can go wrong here and make inflammation. There's the NOx enzyme, which are now getting a lot of attention because of the current virus situation. And also the KIT genes can be variated to create more mast cells and EMF sensitivity. Then this second row, your antioxidant productions, your NADPH, your glutathione, your SOD and catalase, the sirtuins that have packed so many things, and the FOXOs. And then the list goes on up through here, and this is what we created the pyramid, how you go about supporting detoxification. Put out the fire first. Help with the antioxidants. Make sure your detox pathways are working, and all the way on up through. Now, one of my favorite sayings is when the house is burning down, please don't wash the windows and mow the lawn. Because many times I believe that us health practitioners focus on the wrong areas when there's a lot of inflammation going on. One of the most common is what is called the Fenton reaction, discovered in 1895 by Dr. Fenton. And we covered this in one of the webinars, and please watch that webinar for details. But what happens is we get, in energy production, we'll often get an electron that flies off, combines with oxygen, makes superoxide. We need SOD to make hydrogen peroxide. And then we need glutathione peroxidase, thioredoxin, and catalase to clear that. If not, it'll combine with iron to make hydroxyl radicals. That can combine with nitric oxide to make the very oxidizing peroxynitrite, or start oxidizing your fats. How can you know if that's happening? Well, this is where the genetics comes into play. There's genes called SLC31A1 and ATP7A that are responsible for copper, which is needed for ceruloplasm. Using genomics, you can also look at your ceruloplasm production genes. Vitamin A is needed for proper use of iron, so the BCMO1 genes is your beta-carotene to vitamin A. The HFE, FTL, transferrin factor, and TRF2 will all impact how iron is absorbed. Mutations in some of these can cause overabsorption. Catalase, glutathione production, glutathione utilization, glutathione recycling, glutathione peroxidase, glutathione S-transferase. All of those are needed so that we have proper clearing of hydrogen peroxide. Then these are just a few, G6PD, ME1, NMMAT, and NQO1 to make that critical NADPH that takes your oxidized glutathione back to your reduced. Here's your NAS uncoupling. We need BH4. If the BH4 is inadequate because it's not being produced properly, or being turned back and forth with DHFR and QDPR, rather than getting this precious nitric oxide, we get superoxide. Combines with nitric oxide, makes peroxynitrite, further depletes your BH4, a major source of inflammation. If this is going on, in my opinion, you need to take care of this first before you try to do anything else in regards to detoxification. So here's the genetics. MTHFR 81298, QDPR, DHFR, the NAS enzyme itself. Again, availability of NADPH. Proper urea cycle to clear the ammonia, because if we don't, the body will use BH4 to deplete it. Now, compensations for this may also include herbs that scavenge peroxynitrite, such as witch hazel. Glutamate, look what we have here. Glutamate is what makes you intelligent, highly motivated. But we need NAD+, and the GDH enzyme to turn it into alpha-ketoglutarate and succinyl CoA in the Krebs cycle. We need GLUL to turn it into glutamine, and GLS to turn that glutamine back to glutamate. The GAD enzyme takes glutamate to GABA. If you have inflammation or infection, or genetic mutations in your GAD enzyme, that glutamate to GABA is not going to happen. Result? Anxiety, inflammation. Now, how do we identify this? Take a look at the GAD, the GLUL, the DAO, and then identify and reduce inflammation and infection that inhibits glutamate to GABA conversion. Now, I think this is a very important slide. There's an enzyme called NOx, NADPH oxidase. And this enzyme is a very critical enzyme. This is what the body does. It takes oxygen from iron, an electron from NADPH, and makes superoxide to stimulate mast cells. Now, obviously, you all know that there's a big concern over mast cell production, mast cell activation syndrome. Based upon our research, I believe the reason this is happening is because there are multiple epigenetic factors, EMF, sulfites that could be high because of glyphosate, dopamine high, homocysteine high, aldosterone from stress or problems with the RAAS system, particulates from smoking, high glutamate, high iron, oxalates, histamine, upregulated mTOR, mycotoxins, allergens, xenobiotics, Borrelia, EMF. All of these can impact the mast cells. If we've got genetic mutations in HMOX, we're not going to calm this down. And although it's hard to see over here, nitric oxide and oxytocin calm down the NOx and the mast cells. I would have to say in the consults we do with our clients, many of the people that are struggling, this is what's going on. Then you'll see here this makes histamine. Now, NADPH oxidase is an interesting enzyme. It's the only known enzyme with the sole function to produce reactive oxygen species. Now, it prevents bacterial infections, but does not appear to contribute to viral. Now, particularly as we're challenged with some of the health things that are going on in the country now, I believe this is very important, and this is some of our new research. NOx2 appears to play a critical role in oxidative stress, inflammation, and injury during influenza infection, and NOx inhibitors may inhibit this impact. So one of the things that we're concerned about is the cytokine storm that creates the lung damage. Might be multiple factors, but upregulation of NOx may be one of the factors that's causing that. Look at this. NOx2 knockout mice showed reduction in viral titers, inflammation, superoxide and peroxynitride production, among other inflammatory markers. In vivo administration of NOx inhibitor reduced those viral titers, inflammation, and superoxide production. Published study. Here's the title. Inhibition of NOx2 oxidase activity ameliorates influenza A virus-induced lung inflammation. In my opinion, this is very significant, possibly why we're seeing such a challenge with our current health situation. So what do we do here? Make sure genetically or epigenetically there's not excess iron, glutamate, oxytocin, homocysteine, dopamine, sulfites, aldosterone that stimulate the NOx. The KIT genes that we didn't look at will overstimulate, underactive HMOX, and then use herbs that calm NOx such as PEA, luteolin, spirulina, and support the adrenals and cortisol production. Because as you know, those mast cells stimulate histamine, and we have to have adequate cortisol to do that. Now, NRF2, the master control for antioxidants. Look at what NRF2 does. It's responsible for all your glutathione production and regeneration, your thioredoxin production, regeneration, and utilization, that precious NADPH that recycles, your iron sequestration, NQO1, quinone detoxification, a critical NADH to NAD plus conversion, and your glutathione peroxidases and your glutathione S transferases, all controlled by NRF2. So how valuable do you think it is when you can actually see if you've got mutations in NRF2? So when you look at the genomics, you can see if you've got mutations in KEAP1 that regulate NRF2, or if there's problems in NRF2 or CDKN1A. If that's the case, then you may want to start using nutrients that support healthy NRF2 production. Okay. Now, this is one of my favorite subjects, NAD+, NADH, because to me, this is critical. In metabolism, NAD+ is involved in redox reactions and transferring electrons. It's found in two forms. NAD+ is an oxidizing agent that accepts electrons and becomes reduced, which then makes NADH, which can then be used to donate electrons. And of course, you all recognize that's at the top of the electron transport. Okay. Now, because of the importance of these functions, these enzymes involved in NAD metabolism have a critical role in maintaining homeostasis. And NADPH is synthesized from NAD+, and has similar functions as an activated carrier. Now, this is why I believe NADPH is so important. Look at all it does. It's a cofactor for making nitric oxide. We need it to take oxidized thioredoxin back to reduced, your oxidized glutathione back to reduced, heme to ferritin, heme to biliverdin, and heme to carbon monoxide to stimulate NRF2. Now, here's why NRF2 is NADPH is so important. When glutathione does its job and it's reduced, and here it is through glutathione conjugation, it actually becomes oxidized. Now, it's interesting. We need NADPH and GSR to turn that back. If we have trouble with GSR or NRF2 or not enough NADPH production, we get stuck in oxidized. Then look what happens. That oxidized glutathione combines with oxygen to make superoxide, nitric oxide to make the very powerful oxidizing agent peroxynitrite. And this also will suppress sulfation, this oxidized glutathione. One of the things we notice in our consulting is that many times someone will have one of those things will create excess inflammation and inadequate NADPH, and these are the folks that are inflamed, can't detox, and have all kinds of health challenges. And that's why I believe that NADPH is so critical, and a lot of our work is going towards that. So you can see here that NADPH is critical for recycling your glutathione, your thioredoxin, because without this precious NADPH, we're not going to clear that hydrogen peroxide, iron comes along, and we get hydroxyl radicals. Interesting information here. NADPH needed for folate for methylation. Look at this. If we don't have enough NADPH, the folate will shift redox balance towards oxidation. To me, that's very significant. So when we just see that someone has MTHFR and we start consequently supporting methylfolate and we give it potentially too soon or too much, or when there's lack of NADPH, we can actually make inflammation. Now, here's the pathway of how NADPH is synthesized. Starts up here with tryptophan, then TDO, IDO1, IDO2. So just think how valuable it is to know if you've got some mutations here. We go down through the de novo pathway. We continue down to quinolinic acid. If we have trouble with QPRT, we're going to get stuck on quinolinic, which induces NMDA receptor-mediated lipid peroxidation. If you've got some problems with NMNAT or NADS, you're not going to make your NAD+. And not only does that make your NADH and NADPH, but it also feeds your PARP enzymes, which is DNA repair. Obviously, critical. Now, let's go back to what we showed you earlier, the NOx enzyme. Important, but if it's upregulated, look who it uses. It gets an electron from NADPH. That's why I coined the phrase, the NADPH steal. The NADPH steal is when excess NADPH is needed to make potentially unnecessary superoxide, mast cells, cytokines, IL-13, another subject all on its own, and the histamine. Then if we have any genetic mutations that acetylation is not working, ABP1 is not working, although it's not on this chart, histamine and methyltransferase, we can't clear the histamine. Then your cortisol might be overused and your adrenals wear out, and you can do all the adrenal tonics you want. You're not going to bring this cortisol or the adrenals back unless you take off some of this strain. So again, NADPH is needed to make nitric oxide, recycle your antioxidants. So what do you think happens if you see in the genome there's not enough production of this, and then additionally NOx is upregulated? The whole body is going to be unable to detox. So I'm not going to read these because I pretty much went over this before when I was looking at the chart, but I would like to just emphasize NQO1. This supports the NADH to NAD+. Just observing at our clinic, when people have mutations in NQO1, they're struggling and they can't seem to detox. Interestingly, when you know that, and that knowledge is so valuable, Paudiarco has shown to support that NQO1 in vivo. Could talk to you for a long time about all the benefits we've seen giving people Paudiarco when they have mutations in NQO1. Now also, G6PD, ME1, NADK, IDH2, all of these are involved with making NADPH. Now, I want to talk a little bit about mTOR. Fascinating research here. mTOR is the production of new cells, autophagy, the cleaning of the cells. In one of our studies that we presented in Boston at a Lyme conference, we showed that those with chronic Lyme had predispositions to genetic and epigenetic factors that make mTOR overactive, autophagy underactive. And of course, this is why we're seeing such tremendous interest in the in intermittent fasting and ketogenic diet, because that slows mTOR, helps autophagy. Autophagy is where we clean up, absorb and recycle old cells and other cellular debris. When mTOR is activated, autophagy is suppressed. Look at this information. Viruses have been reported to utilize mTOR of the host cell for replication. So mTOR inhibitors have been shown to have notable antiviral action and have been investigated as a novel treatment option. Throwing this out for speculation only, is the difference between those who have mild symptoms and severe or even deadly symptoms is a factor that their mTOR is upregulated and their autophagy is weakened? We can't say for sure, but I think there's a very strong potential that that could be happening. So here it is. Now this is the 1918 influenza virus, so we can't interpolate that to today with complete accuracy. But interesting information, the mTOR signaling pathways are temporarily hijacked by the 1918 flu virus. Now, here's what I believe is happening. Here's mTOR weakens autophagy. Look at all the things that could be upregulating mTOR. Xenoestrogens, amino acids, hormones, intrinsic growth factor, insulin, iron, methionine and SAMe, glutamate, folate, cytokines, stimulate the mTOR and weaken the autophagy. That's why resveratrol, turmeric are very helpful to slow it down. Lithium, vitamin D, and berberine speed it up. And that's why we've actually created some formulas that we won't have time to talk about them today, but you might want to check out our website. We have some new formulas that you can either purchase or custom make with personalized nutrients for the individual to offer support for mTOR and autophagy. So it's very valuable to see if you've got mutations in ULK1, ULK2, ATG13, AMPK, or SIRT3. Now, the same principle that you saw on the free radicals and antioxidants applies to all the other identified areas of concern. So, how do you implement all of this in your practice? Well, step number one, we have online education. It takes you step by step through each block, how to understand them, the proper order to do them. First 3 modules are free. Sign up at functionalgenomicanalysis.com. That's functionalgenomicanalysis.com. Now, this was recorded March 31, 2020, and we have a certification course that's up there since 2017, and over the next weeks and months, we're going to be upgrading with some of this brand new information that we have. This is all done by just a small organization that I founded, Nutrigenic Research, and you can go to our website here and look at some of our research on Lyme disease. Then I just spoke about the certification course. First 3 modules are free. It's 14 modules. When we remake it, there may be more or less. And here's who all the things that go together. The Research Institute does the genetic and epigenetic research. Functional genomic analysis. This is the software. This is this cloud-based software that takes a genetic information from your genomic resource, interprets the SNPs, labs, and symptoms to create a platform that you can decide how to support. And then your genomic resource is the genetic saliva test that measures 200,000 SNPs. Our promise, totally confidential, never shared. You can change your name. Then what you do is you get your person to do a saliva test or a buccal swab, mail it to Brooks at Rutgers. They extract the DNA. Then they send it to the software. Functional genomic analysis is cloud-based software where you have your own account. And then when the results come in from the individual, you get an email, your patient or client gets an email, and you get to look at all the reports. It's beyond this short little video here to show you all the reports, but it's very, very extensive. So what you do is just, go to the website, request a free account. If you have a 23andMe version 3 or 4, you can upload that for free and look at it. Or if you'd like us to upload a sample, we'll be happy to do it for you. So what did we do? We have functional genomic nutrition, where we've now made many supplements that support these pathways. We worked with professional health products to make some products called methyl genetic nutrition. And then we have personalized formulas with personalized nutrients. Very exciting. You can actually go in, take one of these functional genomic nutrition products and increase, decrease, remove, or add things to what you're doing. And then you can actually put them all together. We're going to be having a one-day class April 24th, and contact us on that. It's going to be live, but it'll just be web-based. It's not going to be held anywhere. We moved it to streaming. A 3-hour course on how you can make your own custom formulas. And as we said in the very beginning, the future is going to be personalized care. How often does this happen? You get a supplement that's made by reputable companies, that's research-based, and then the client or patient looks at it and says, oh, but I can't take fill in the blank. Or you've got a couple of bottles, each with different functions, but maybe the ingredients add up too much for you. Just think of how interesting that'll be when you can make one bottle for the person. Send it to them. You won't have to worry about duplication. You can take out things that might be contraindicated. For example, quercetin is wonderful, but if somebody has COMT enzymes, that could be contraindicated. We're programming the software now to actually give you instructions as to nutrients that you may want to put in or take out based upon what you're seeing in the genome. Now, keep in mind, again, this includes not only the genome, but we have the person fill out a symptom survey. And then we also can put in labs. Right now, we're just working with Great Plains urine organic acids. But when all that is put in, you're comparing SNPs, labs, symptoms. Because I'm sure you've heard the old adage, never treat the SNPs. You don't give someone something just because they have a SNP. And I think what we're going to find is that we can't just treat the SNPs because many times it's way too complex. Now, here's your genomic resource. It's a customized DNA kit. This raw data looks at various pathways involved in functional nutritional support and helps to tell a more comprehensive story of gene function. Here's what it looks like. Here's what you can give to your patient or client or mail it to them. We worked with Affymetrix, Thermo Fisher, and Rutgers. Brooks at Rutgers is our lab and fulfillment center. Now, to use this, you need the software, 200,000 SNPs. We've worked very hard at keeping the price down. $199 for the saliva kit, $235 for buccal swab, and that includes the entire report generation. We are really working hard to keep this affordable. And there's where you go for the software, functionalgenomicanalysis.com. the cloud-based software program exclusively for healthcare practitioners that maintains unprecedented analytical capabilities using raw genomic data. Visit our website to request a professional account to explore all of its dynamic features. Again, free trial. Don't have to spend a penny. Don't need to give us a credit card. Upload of 23andMe, play around with it to your heart's content. Then if you decide this is for you, and quite frankly, this isn't for everybody. This is not for somebody who's looking for, hey, can I just run this and I get a one-page report of what to do? No, you do have to work at this. So if you're looking for a one-page, this is what I do, you'll probably be disappointed. But if you want to be a serious person taking this to the next level, you're going to love this, because this will be able to help you in ways that you've never been able to help people before. So how do you implement it? Have the test kits in your office or mailed to your patients. Patient expectorates saliva or uses buccal swabs. DNA is extracted. Data sent to the online software. And the patient has a portal where they can see a consumer version of the report. You get a professional version and access to the pyramid, an online interactive map. Now, you can have the patient answer questions in their portal. You can enter the Great Plains. We're working with them. Don't know when. No promises, but an automatic upload. You can compare SNPs, labs, symptoms. We're putting into the software labs that may need to confirm. It's not there yet. It's being programmed in. Software gives guidance on supplement suggestions. Now, this is going to be coming in the next month or two. We're going to have a genetic map that lights up with colors related to the amount of SNPs for each enzyme for the patients to see. When we have that, I think that's going to absolutely give unprecedented ability for you to decide what to do, because it really is the 3D chess game played underwater. And then the software allows you to also make a custom formula through personalized nutrients. Now, here's what you do. Try it for free. If you have a version 3 or version 4, 23andMe, demo it for free. The license fee for the software is only $25 a month. Genetic tests, $199, buccal swab, $235. You can charge whatever you want. Personally, we don't mark them up at our clinic, but you can. So go to DNAsupplementation.com for a sign-up, or contact Yvonne Lucchese. She's our executive director, and she can be reached at 717-466-5700, or Yvonne L. at DNAsupplementation.com. We started out by saying that we're now entering a new era, that the old pill for the ill may not be sufficient. We need to have personalized care. So when you use the pyramid system, you're going to see where function needs to be supported. Because you could see 10 people with the same issue, and you might have 10 different protocols when you start looking at function. And again, contact us for the April 25th the free 3-hour training on personalized nutrition, and also look on our website for conferences, and we do webinars every other Thursday evening where we go through case studies. We're here to support you. If you're ready to take the next step in personalized care, we trust that you'll be working with us and try to make as much of a contribution to humanity as we possibly can.